all my years as a professional dancer, I've seen so many dancers retire and feeling very lost after, and feeling like lost, not knowing who they are, not knowing what to do, and not having any support. So I was like, I think I want to talk to dancers and understand what dancers do while they are still dancing. So for that, I am researching dancers that are currently employed here in a company in Germany. So this is what I've been working on.
Aurora, welcome to the Ballet Science Podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here today. To get started, for any listeners who may not know you yet, could you introduce yourself and tell us about your journey into professional ballet?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Caroline, and it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Aurora Dickie. I am from Brazil. I was born and raised in Brazil. Currently, I'm a soloist dancer at the Staatsballett Berlin in Germany. I've been here for 11 years. Prior to that, I danced for 6 years in the USA at the Washington Ballet. And before that, I also danced a couple of years in Brazil, where I'm from. Yeah. My mom was a ballet dancer, and she was my teacher when I was a kid. And she was a teacher until I was 11 years old. And that's how I started with ballet. I think uh, since I remember myself, I remember being involved in ballet because my mom had that very alive in her life and in our lives. So I used to go as a kid to her ballet school and just jump around and imitate the older kids. And yeah, ballet was always very natural to me. And then at age 11, I went to the Bolshoi school in Brazil. That's where I did my main training. Yeah. After that, I went to YGP finals in New York City, and I won bronze medal. And that's where the invitation to go to the Washington Ballet came. And that's how my international career launched in 2007. Yeah. So it's been 19 years that I'm a professional dancer.
Wow, that's quite a career. Very, very impressive. And I've actually seen you dance. So I was in Berlin for the summer in 2019, teaching at a study abroad program, and I saw you dance several times, and you are a beautiful dancer.
Oh my God, that's
Yes.
amazing. Thank you.
So, yeah,
Oh,
congratulations on your long and wonderful career.
thank you.
So, obviously, you're currently still dancing in Berlin professionally in
Mhm.
a large, very elite company. And I know you're also pursuing a master's degree at the same time. Can you talk
Yeah.
about your experience with that?
Yeah. Well, where do I start? Well, it is demanding, but it's very rewarding to me. Since I started this career, I knew that we have an end quite early on. But not only that, I always loved studying. I'm curious. I'm kind of an inquisitive mind, so I'm always looking for information. And since my career started, I always did something on the side, some course or, class work, university to get things going and to have something else also to nurture my other interests. So I've done in Brazil, I did a little bit of psychology. I went to undergrad. I didn't finish, but I did do some psychology work in the US. I also did when I was dancing there, I also did some online courses, general education, and then I did 2 years at Columbia University for economics. So I always been busy also with university or studying on the side. But this specific course, this master's in dance science that I'm doing at the Berlin University, it is quite special. I started coaching young dancers a few years ago. And then suddenly I felt the need to have more information, to have more knowledge, instead of just, relying on experience and relying on what works on my own body. I started feeling a limitation, being like, okay, how do I approach this differently? How do I actually get the person to do what they can do to unlock their potential and to not repeat things that I thought they were not helpful for me, but I also knew that I didn't want to do that, but I also didn't know where else I could do. So it's like, and then a colleague of mine was doing this master's, and I said, okay, I would try. I would do. At the time, I was not studying anything. So I was like, my mind was itching, like, I need to do something. And so I started in 2024. It is a hybrid program. So I can do it online or I can do it on campus. And the way it works is we have what we call study or lecture weekends on once a month. And so then, we do a lot of work by ourselves. And then we have that one weekend, very intensive Saturday, Sunday with a lot of lectures, a lot of things are thrown at us. And then we have 4 weeks to kind of digest on our own. So that way it's very flexible and it makes it possible to juggle the two things. Yeah. So it has been really, it's been really nice to be able to do both. It is definitely demanding and yeah, but I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. Yeah, that was a very thorough answer. Thank you for explaining all of that. Yeah, I've heard of that program, but I didn't know sort of all the details that you just explained. So thank you for going through all that. I'm sure yeah, it's great that it's hybrid. That I'm sure that helps a lot, but makes even still with a very busy schedule, I would imagine, with
Yeah,
everything else going on. I've seen you post on your social media some about your thesis and your
yeah.
research. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. I'm very excited. I started in March and I'm full on in research mode right now. It's quite nice. Yeah, so I decided to go into retirement transition of dancers. So yeah, throughout the studies, we've seen so many things like biomechanics, which I know is your specialty. We've seen training, motor learning, psychology, motivation. There is so much that we see, and we did have something on transition, retirement transition, but a lot of it is based on sports, and a lot of it is, I mean, what we have for dance, it's very little. And as I said in the beginning, I started this career knowing that, okay, I know I'm going to get to a certain age and I'm going to have to stop dancing. And I didn't want to be like, okay, when I finish dancing, I need to teach because I don't know how to do anything else. And then also, even that is not quite correct, right? So you teach because you're a dancer. Those are two different things. But I started as I all my years as a professional dancer, I've seen so many dancers retire and feeling very lost after, and feeling like lost, not knowing who they are, not knowing what to do, and not having any support. And then I love sports. I love following sport things. And I realized that in sports, that's a bit different. The research, it is a little bit, there has been more research done, about 60 years of research, worth of research for retirement transition. And for dance, really, that we started, that I found evidence, like, it's been 20 years or more or less. And since I consider myself going through transition for the last years, I don't think transition is something that happens overnight. And the name says transition is not like a flip, it's like it's a transition. It should have that kind of bridge. And then I just felt like, okay, I see that there's a lot of other people researching all these other topics, more physical, more increasing performance. I was like, what if I go on a different way? And then I did a literature review on retirement transition of dancers. So I found that a lot of the research was after retirement transition. So in retrospect, and I found, okay, that's valuable. You see the experience of people that after they retired, what they went through, what worked for them, what didn't work. But also what came out of this was that a lot of these people wished they had started before and they had more support and information. So I was like, I think I want to talk to dancers and understand what dancers do while they are still dancing. It's not only what they do. Let's start before, like, are they aware of this transition? Are they well aware that they will have to go through? How they deal with it? Do they prepare before? Are they able to prepare before? Because we cannot separate the individual to the environment, right? So sometimes people may want to prepare, to study, to do something on the side, but the environment doesn't allow them, be it because of the schedule or the mentality or the culture. Like, so I wanted to understand more these factors. So for that, I am researching dancers that are currently employed here in a company in Germany because, you know, making it the population quite specific. It's an environment that I know. I know what's available, and I wanted to also understand how aware people are about these resources, if they use it, if they prepare, if they don't, and also what would help them. So this is yeah, this is what I've been working on.
That is excellent. And it's such an important topic. On this podcast, I've talked about this topic a lot. I think it's really interesting. And I know a lot of people are very interested in it. So I love that you kind of decided to go that route for your thesis when, like you said, there were so many other, routes you could take that maybe are more common. So I think
Yeah.
that's wonderful. And I can't wait to see the results of your study. So where are you? Are you still collecting data? Are you still looking for participants or where are you in that, I guess, schedule?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm doing a mixed methods. So I did a questionnaire in April and May. So I collected this at that part is done. I collected the answers. I ran the analysis, and then I'm now doing some interviews. So I would like to, yeah. So I wanted to go more in depth also with the experiences. So because I think the questionnaire is going to give me kind of the behavior pattern more or less, and that's I wanted to also have something more quantitative because a lot of the research out there is qualitative, is interviews, which I think is very valuable. But then I'm like, okay, what if I try to quantify a little bit and see, percentages of this and that? So it's been interesting to see that. But at the same time, I think talking to dancers and understanding, okay, so why do why do you think that, let's say, X percent of dancers are afraid to speak with their directors about transition? So then experiences start coming and then we can, understand a little bit better. So right now I'm running the interviews. I need, I have two more that I have to do, and then I will start fully in the analysis and writing.
So while you've been dancing and doing, the master's degree simultaneously, what skills from ballet have you found that have helped you succeed academically? And then also vice versa, what, skills from maybe things you've learned throughout your coursework have now come over into your dancing?
Yeah, from ballet, definitely the grit, I would say, like that drive, I would even call it passion, that to be like, no, I want to do this. Like, I want to put my heart into this. I know it's a bit harder with studies that it can be a little bit more dry in a way, but I think when I tap into that, I am able to work better. So that is one thing. It's that ability or that want or will to achieve something. I think we have that as dancers. Like if something doesn't work, we just don't sit on the side and be like, oh, it doesn't work. Like we try to solve it. So I have that. That's something that the career has taught me as a dancer. Well, the discipline, it's a deadline. It's a deadline. Yeah, I can talk about a bit more of how, sometimes how things don't work together, like with the schedule. But yeah, I think the discipline and the responsibility, we take this for ourselves. Like, I want to do this. I'm doing this because I want to, not because someone told me to do these studies. And from my studies, what I've been learning is to be actually more analytical and even more inquisitive. I think we learn, especially in research, to understand the reason of things and to understand how we came about, how we got to those results. So how do we get to, like, why do we work the way we work? Like, why the schedule has to be like this? And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the answer is not the perfect one. Is like, oh, because it's the best for our performance. Sometimes there are so many other things that are involved. It's the theater, it's the repetitor, it's the XYZ. But with the studies, I have learned to try to understand things from different perspectives. So when I'm at work, I'm like, okay, maybe the schedule is like this, keeping the schedule example, because it has to be like this. So I just have to deal with this and move on. Like, don't take it to heart so much. Like, because we love complain, we love making things up as dancers also, Yeah, and I've definitely been there, but experience and also this having this other skill, more analytical, it helped me to see things differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because, I've also, danced and then gone to school and gotten graduate degrees. And yeah, I think the skills just go kind of back and forth so easily for dancers. And I think, so many things about being a dancer prepared me to succeed academically. Discipline, like you mentioned, of course. And then I think also one thing I really found, especially when I got to become time to like publish and get feedback from reviewers, which can sometimes be not so friendly, is just knowing how to take criticism. Like you can't take things too personally. As dancers, we get criticized on a daily basis. But that's how you become better. You have to take that and try to improve. And so I always found that I think all the years of taking corrections and, just kind of getting a thick skin really helped me a lot when it came time to, present my research and get feedback and things like that. So, yeah, I think dancers can pretty much do anything
I agree.
after dancing and doing everything with that. So, excellent.
I agree.
So, as someone who's been actively balancing intellectual and physical performance, do you think that the ballet world is changing how it views education and sort of a dual career path for dancers? Since you're obviously successfully doing both, do you think that is the norm or do you think you have had an easier time? What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I would say I understand what you mean by ballet world, but I would not use ballet world. Ballet world is too big and too generic. And but I know what you mean. I just don't have an easy answer to say, well, the ballet world is changing because I've been in 3 different countries and I've talked now with a lot of dancers from different countries and companies. And it depends. It really depends. I think there are places that are moving forward on that, that accept, that encourage. But what I have found is that it has more to do with the individual in terms of who is the director and the culture of the country. I would dare to say the US and the UK, I find that the culture is more towards university, towards education, and for some reason, I find that there are more companies and schools in those countries that partner with universities and encourage dancers to do that through scholarships or through flexible schedules more than here in Europe that I find. In general, I think there are good things happening in the ballet world. I would say there are places that are understanding that, dancers who go to university, they don't take away their attention or their work as a dancer. But I think we still have work to do for that to be something that is, the norm. Which is interesting, because everyone knows that the ballet dancer career is short. Everyone, I mean, even if you probably when you're a dancer that you talk to someone, maybe an older person, and you say, "Yeah, I'm a ballet dancer." Okay, but what are you going to do when you finish? There is always this awareness, okay, it's going to end. But then when we come, okay, we are going to prepare while we're still dancing. Yeah, how are you going to do that? And, then you're going to take your focus away from dancing. And that's not possible. This is usually from the directors or teachers or the industry side. And we have that so ingrained in us that sometimes, and I have felt that before, now I'm better about it, but that when let's say, if I don't have a full day of rehearsal and I come home and I study, oh, I feel like it's a betrayal or I'm not doing enough for my job, even though my performance is just fine, my level is just fine. So I think there's a lot of work to be done in terms of making this to normalize this and to say this is actually good for everyone to have dancers educated. And I would even dare to to make a hypothesis here that productivity would increase, if we allow dancers to do that.
Yes, I would agree with that hypothesis too. And yes, thank you for explaining all of that. And yeah, I would agree it definitely varies country by country and even company by company. So, yes, that was very interesting, everything you said there. And I think what you mentioned too about kind of feeling guilty, like if you take time away. So, as dancers, we are like, okay, the performance is the most important thing. And of course, it's very important. But, we're humans. And I think it always helps to have outside interests or, things you're studying or thinking about. And I think that helps your dancing. So yeah, I think like you said, it's helpful to have some connection sort of outside of your dancing life. And yeah, I think the more that, directors and teachers or whoever can kind of get on board with that, even if it's very part-time, even if it's like, every semester you even just take one class. I mean, I know during some of my time when I did my undergrad while dancing professionally, and there were some semesters where somehow I went full time. I don't know how. And then others where I took, one or two online classes, and then some where I just took the whole semester off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think trying to find a balance can be very helpful.
I would just add something. It does have to do with your environment again, right? Like with the school, with the university, and with the company, the ballet company. Because if you have schools, and I know in America, I know in the US, schools are sometimes more flexible that you can take one course at a time or you can take part-time or, you make your own schedule. You can choose different classes. Because I know dancers in the US that they go into the ballet company and then the second year, they already start doing some coursework. So that's so helpful. But then here, like I've tried to look for flexible universities, in flexible schedule. First of all, it's in German, so there's the language barrier. But then even if you speak German, it's like it's not that easy to find a school that you can do your own schedule or you can pick your classes. It's really yeah, so then you need to go to maybe an online degree and then it doesn't have it becomes a little bit more complicated, but yeah, I agree. It's doable, and we don't know how we do it sometimes, but
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure, but in my experience, and it sounds like from you too, it's worth it if you can find something that works, with your schedule and your interests. I think it's so rewarding.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Great. So, have your studies, maybe some of the other classes you've taken about injury prevention, biomechanics, or whatever, have your studies given you a different perspective on health, performance, or longevity in a dance career?
Yeah, well, my mind is going a bit in circles now, and so much is coming because we are I feel the more I study and the more I dive into the research that's being done with performance, with, biomechanics, with training, with, psychology, the more almost the more it contradicts with what we do on a daily basis. And it has changed my view. Yeah, I but I'm daily confronted with tradition, and this is how things are and have been and accepted, and they worked, with like, okay, let's try things differently. And it's not only from the management, and I don't say it only from directors or teachers, even dancers themselves. Like, how many times I go to my colleagues, they're like, okay, I have a performance on Friday. I have to do a run every day this week. And I'm like, you don't. Like, you don't. No, I need for myself. And I say, okay, then let's separate things. You need it for yourself because you need psychologically to think that you're ready, but you have done a performance a week ago. So let's see how we could. So that's what I mean with the tradition and the way we are taught to like what research shows, you know. And so it has definitely changed, and I try to approach it for myself. Even with my own performance schedule, I have the flexibility. I work very closely with my ballet masters and with my trainers. So if I know I have a big performance, I can work with them and say, okay, I'm gonna do a run here. This is how I'm gonna build up. But I know that's not everyone that can do that or know how to do that. But I try to have a positive impact in my in my little circle. So, hopefully this will help to change also the mentality.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And yeah, I could see how, yeah, it's not just, coming from the top, like do a run through, do this. It's like within ourselves sometimes we feel like we need to have control of it, and that's our way of kind of having control, I think, is just keep running, 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 when, like you said, a lot of the science is showing that's actually not the way to lead up to a performance. But yeah,
Yeah,
balancing tradition with kind of some new ideas is an ongoing challenge, but we'll get
yeah.
there, I think,
Yes,
hopefully,
I
with
think
some
so
more
too.
time. So speaking of schedules, what can you talk us through sort of like what your daily schedule is like currently, even just, dancing and then weaving in the schoolwork too and
Yeah.
performances?
Yeah. It really depends on the week and on the things that we are working on at the theater. But my schedule is usually done around the theater schedule. So every day, my day starts at the theater at 10 a.m. with a ballet class. So that's kind of like the anchor of my planning, and then everything goes around that. If I have a full day of rehearsals, then yeah, I just stay at the theater. Most likely, I'll get home, be exhausted, and not be able to do much. There are times that I have just last rehearsals, and then, sometimes I finish earlier in the day, and then I can come home and dive into some studies. I have had also days where I go to work, do my class, and then I have, let's say, 2 hours break. So I then go to my dressing room, I bring my computer, my stuff, and then I do some schoolwork, go back to rehearsal. With the travel I've had, not always I've been able to go to Bern, so that's something that I've also had to learn to kind of understand, because we can do it online as well, as I mentioned. So the classes are happening on campus, but they have the online option, so you can be fully present and interactive with the classes. So sometimes on weekends we work, so I have to go to class in the morning, and then if I have a little break, I jump into class, and then so I've done that quite a lot. And I've also done and with the travel, there was one time on a Friday night, I finished Swan Lake at like 11 p.m. And the next day at 6 a.m., I was at the airport catching a flight to go to Zurich, to take a train to Bern, to have a full day of lecture. So I've done some crazy things like that, which I'm like, wow, I don't know how I did it and how I managed it. But yeah.
Busy days for sure.
Yeah, so I know it's a lot, but
No, I mean,
it's
it's
just
it's
what it
I
is.
think lots of people will relate to that. Anyone else who's I mean, I didn't dance for a company as large as yours, but even so, you have your schedule and your
Yeah,
rehearsals and everything, and just dealing with, like, the physical exhaustion of it, and then trying to even, like, mentally, dancing takes a mental toll, and then having something saved at the end of the day to use on something else can be hard.
yeah.
Um do you do any type of cross training in terms of, like, your physical stamina? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I've always done it. Sometimes I even at this point in my career, sometimes I even prioritize that to like full ballet class, because I don't have a problem saying my age. I'm 38, so I'm quite old, let's say, for a dancer. I mean, I hate saying this. I'm, I'm not so young. So I know my body, but I also know that there are certain things that if I do every day, like they actually hurt my body more than benefit. So I know with the cross training, we have a trainer here in the company, and I've been working with him for I think since 5, 6 years. So it's been, or even more. So it's like he knows me and he knows the schedule. So we work together on that, on like building, the strength, or stamina, or preparing the body for performances. So I actually prioritize that more than, as I mentioned, to go into, jumping class every day. 'Cause sometimes that actually doesn't bring much than if I go into the fitness studio and do a bit more.
Yeah, that's very interesting, but makes total sense, and I think it's great that you've come to know your body and what works for you so well, and like you said, it probably has changed over time. But yeah, so many again, as dancers, we think the answer and, like, class is great, of course, like, I'm not knocking ballet class, but, like, sometimes there are other things that might help supplement or complement, even
Yeah.
better, so I think that is wonderful. So this next question is related to your research thesis. So for dancers who feel their identity is completely tied to ballet, what has pursuing higher education taught you about starting to build that identity beyond the studio that then will help carry you through that transition?
Yeah, I'll say that was very hard in the beginning. It was one time years ago, I think 6 years, 7 years ago, that in the beginning of every class, every university course, you kind of, if it's a small group, you usually introduce yourself and you say who you are, where you're from. And I remember that sometimes, even before saying where I was, from where I was, I would say I'm a dancer. So like, hi, my name is Aurora. I'm a ballerina. I'm a dancer. I'm a professional ballet. So that, you know, is my identity, and it was very stronger, much stronger before. So then I realized, I was like, okay, who I am if I'm not that dancer? Like, what if I don't have that anymore? And then through the university also, I've always, I don't know, it's hard to, sometimes I would put that in front of everything, like, oh, because I'm a dancer I do things this way, or because, but then I started slowly, like, well, I can do things without being related to being a dancer. Like, I can just be a normal person. Like, I can just, I started kind of trying to find who I was through those classes, through those interactions with people that had nothing to do with ballet. So that was also easier when I was doing classes not related to dance. Because now in my cohort, it's former dancers, teachers, so it's still quite ballet and dance heavy, and we always end up talking about that world again. But with different universities and different classes, it just helped me also to see that there is so much out there. And I think that it's so worth it to go on to that journey and to broaden your identity and your interests, and also your sense of value changes, because then you say, okay, I'm not just worth it for what I can do, or how my body looks, or how high my leg is, or how many turns I do. It's more like, okay, it doesn't matter actually how I look, but I can bring it an idea, and that can be valuable in a discussion. So you start like using your voice more, you start understanding. So I think it's really, I would encourage everyone to do it.
Yes, I would too, and I can relate to so much of that. So, yeah, actually, all three of my degrees, my undergrad, my master's, and my PhD, none of them are like specific to dance science. So, like, I was the one and only, dancer in the room throughout all that process. Which, like,
Mhm.
on the one hand, like, I think it was good, so it kind of set me apart. But then on the other hand, it was kind of like always like disclaimer, like I'm a ballerina, like you said, and you can kind of feel like you have to explain it a lot, and no one can really relate to it. Looking
Yeah.
ahead, where do you see yourself going, beyond the master's degree, and sort of like how will all of that fit into your long-term goals, do you think?
It is an open question. I love the dance world and the ballet world, and I don't see myself completely out of it. I'm still a performer. I love doing that. I know that I will eventually have to stop, and I want to stop also because I want to do other things. I want to contribute to yeah, let's use the dance world in general, with not only my experience but also, with the research and with the studies and what I could add to, even if it's just for my immediate circle. I have thought maybe I want to become a director. Then sometimes I'm like, no, maybe I want to choreograph, which I've tried. And then I'm like, no, maybe I want to just coach dancers. So everything is very much in the open now. I have, you know, aside from my studies and from dancing, I do coach and mentor dancers, young dancers. So I work with a couple, like a few. I don't have the capacity to do much more than that, but I see the impact it has on them, working individually, not only on technique, but also on mental skills, on planning, and I kind of love that work. So yeah, I'm still in that, I don't want to say survey phase, but I think it will start shaping more as I go. But yeah, it's too open.
Yes, and I did not expect any kind of definitive answer. I mean, some people, I guess, do start like a program like yours, and maybe they have a very clear goal. I actually never really, and I still am kind of like, where am I going? I don't know.
Yeah,
But I think it's good to kind of keep an open mind and, just keep all the windows and doors open and
yeah,
sort of see what happens, what evolves, because things can change and you can get ideas from anywhere.
yeah,
And I love
yeah.
that you teach and you coach. I don't know in what time you do that.
Yeah. I mean, I do that. I mean, like I'd say maximum 2 hours a week. If it's on the weekends, sometimes when it's also because I work with students, so sometimes their schedule is also very hard. So we try to fit in. Yeah, but I would say like no more than two private coachings a week, like one evening, one in the weekend. It's and yeah, I don't I don't have much more time than that. Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure it's tough to squeeze it in, but and it's funny. I think you mentioned something about this earlier about how not all dancers could or should become teachers. That I think they're kind of two separate things. But I love teaching too, and I've learned like through my academic work, like I've learned so much that has made me a better teacher too, and
Yeah.
I think it just builds on everything and can really like help you know teach and coach even better than only from the dancing perspective. So I love that you do that too. I think that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, speaking of young dancers, what advice would you give to young dancers who are interested in higher education but worry that pursuing academics might limit their potential dancing opportunities?
I would ask the reason why they wanna do that first, and I would say, you know, have an honest conversation and understand what it is that you want from each of these things. And I would still agree that academic work can wait. I think the more immediate yeah, I think the more immediate career is dancing, but I wouldn't say, yeah, go dancing and then figure out later. I would say understand your reason, understand your why, and then look for opportunities that would allow you to do that. And understand that you may not be able to do both things at the same time at the highest level, right? So if you want to go and dance at ABT and study at Columbia, you can because I have a friend who does that and I know someone who does that. But understand that, you're going to take one course at a time. Some semesters you might not be able to, and define your priority also. So I think it's a little bit of that inquisitive work like okay, let's understand the context and why you want to do something and then we can shape your path with the possibilities that will suit your goals.
That is
Yeah.
excellent advice. And yes, it's an excellent point to bring up. And I mean, many of us know this, but just to emphasize that, there is sort of a expiration date, I guess you would say, on your dancing
Mhm.
years, just because it is so physical. And, as you get older, it becomes more difficult. And so I think it's a great piece of advice that, just keep that in mind and like what are your specific goals, in terms of education or higher education and dancing too, just to kind of figure out a way to do both and optimize both, I guess, which
Yeah.
can be very tricky. And again, like we've already discussed some, I think you have to kind of look around and find what works for you. But that
Yeah.
is excellent advice for sure.
Yeah.
So, I think as my final question, if you could change one thing about how ballet schools and companies prepare dancers for life, both during and after their performing careers, what would it be?
For schools, I would highly recommend that they start implementing career planning courses or classes. Today, the schools I know, they vary a lot on how they approach that. But usually the support they give is like, okay, we help you to do your CV and we help you do your video. And we may contact one or two companies that, I am close friends with the director or something. Or it really depends on the teacher or something like that. And I think that's a good thing to do to help someone with a CV and the video. But it's like what I see that the dancers going into the job market really lost. Like, I don't know how to negotiate a contract. I don't know what are my rights. I don't know, should I just accept anything? What are my perspectives? Like, for parents too. Like, I have so many parents come to me and be like, well, she's 16 and she wants to dance, but she wants to study. Like, how can like, so schools, I think, have a responsibility to say, okay, this is what the market looks like. This is what your kid can do with the education that they're receiving here. And that's how we support them. And also to say, well, if you don't make it, let's say, if you don't get a job as a dancer right after you finish school, you know, if you don't get a traineeship or if you don't get a studio company or apprentice, maybe it's good that you go to a 4-year university dance program that can bring you. So like kind of, but to have that a little bit more formalized than to just here and there, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I think that would also set up for after career. It's like if you have that base of like, okay, this is what I can do. And also, I mean, there are some schools in Europe that your education is already your bachelor degree. So different than in the US, that you do like a high school and then you go to 4-year program for a bachelor in dance. There are some schools here in Europe, in Germany also, that you do your last 3 years and that's you get a bachelor in performing arts or in dance performance. So that's already also a good thing to prepare for because then you can do either another university or a master's, and so you prepare academically also. And for companies, I would say partner with universities and get dancers to do some things. And it doesn't have to be, just a bachelor. Like some people might want to become, I don't know, costume designers or makeup artists, or things that you don't necessarily need to go to 4-year school. Like you can do a professional degree or something. I think that would make dancers more versatile and happier.
Wonderful ideas. Yes, I had so many things that came to mind as you were talking. I
Sorry.
was trying to jot a few down. No, but it's just wonderful ideas and advice. And something you said about, even when parents get in, like parents kind of also have ideas for their children who are students and trying to help them. And just sometimes I feel like, I mean, my experience with some parents too is they get so fixed. Like there's this one route and we have to do that. And like if it's not that, then it's nothing. And I just
Mm,
think that's the wrong way to think about it. And like you said, there can be so many other options. And I think being flexible in that is so important,
yeah.
just so that you if you want to keep dancing, maybe it's not like you said getting a traineeship with a big company or being an apprentice or a studio company. Maybe it is go to a university program, or maybe go to college and dance in a smaller company. Just find some way to do it. To me, like if you really want to dance, like you'll find a way to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And so just being open to options can be very, very helpful. So I love everything you
Yeah.
said there. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for all that.
Yeah. And I mean, just to add, especially nowadays with so many options that are flexible and so much information out there, there's so like the world, I don't think it's not only dance, right? I mean, people are switching careers. The job market is changing. Some people are working on something that they will have to change careers because their job is being remanaged or repurposed. So this is something, the world is becoming more agile and more flexible. So I think we can also approach that with our dance careers. It doesn't have to be that black and white, either you make it or you don't.
Yes, very true. Things are very fluid these days, I think,
Yeah.
and like that's fine. Like sometimes you get to a certain stage of your life and it's like, "Oh, actually I want to do something totally different."
Yeah.
And why not? I mean, you only
Yeah.
have one life.
Yeah.
So it can happen to anyone. That's very, very true.
Yeah.
Well, Aurora, it has been truly a pleasure speaking with you today. And I love hearing about your research and your degree program and everything you have going on, all while still having a wonderful ballet career, very long and impressive ballet career. So thank you so very much for speaking with me today. I know everyone will love this interview, and I wish you so much luck with everything.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here to speak to you. And yeah, I hope people enjoy and can take something out of it. And congratulations also for your work with Ballet Science. I think it's amazing what you're doing, you know, sharing the research and the good things and kind of building that culture that science can be a part of art as well. So congratulations and thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. That means a lot coming from you. Thank you so much. And that concludes my conversation with Aurora Dickie. Thank you for joining me today for the Ballet Science Podcast. Whether you are a dancer, teacher, student, or simply curious about the mechanics behind movement, I appreciate you being here today. Each week, we'll explore the intersection of science and ballet, from injury prevention and biomechanics to nutrition, mindset, and everything in between. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow this podcast, leave a review, and share it with your friends and dance community. If there are specific topics you'd like to hear about in future episodes, feel free to share them in the comments below. You can also follow Ballet Science on social media and visit our website at ballet.science for additional information. Thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Ballet Science Podcast.